All right.
This has got to be our strangest setup ever.
First one on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're in Athens, Georgia?
Yeah, we're in Athens, Georgia. We're in Hendershot's Coffee, so you might hear some music. You might hear some door noises and some ambiance.
You may hear somebody tell us to go away in an hour.
Well, true, because there's a private party coming and we got to get out in time.
You may hear coffee being made in the background.
That's true. That's true.
Which isn't too unusual because we've always got Jef on the podcast, and so coffee's always a possibility. But he usually doesn't have the
Coffee is a requirement.
professional grade equipment in his kitchen.
Right.
He wants the professional grade equipment in his kitchen. He just
I do.
And I'm making room for it right now.
Thank you for that, by the way.
So why are we in Athens?
Great question. We are in Athens. Well, y'all so graciously came to do a podcast and to see the Shakespeare that
the Shakespeare
I'm performing in, which is very exciting, and I appreciate it. And I'm in Athens, one, to do the Shakespeare, and two, because I'm running Rose of Athens Theater Academy for the past 3 weeks. And that's actually directly ties into my quote-unquote article for today, which is very exciting. But let's all catch up with everybody else's, where everybody else is at.
Well, I actually just finished doing 2 weeks at the Springer Opera House Summer Academy. I was filling in for another teacher who was going to spend that first week. She was not going to be able to be there because she was in Italy. And so I was filling in for her and having fun doing it. And I just finished that on Friday.
One of my TAs was in Italy as well. It's just the place to go. And then
were they a very effective TA if they were in Italy?
Well, that's the thing. They weren't effective until Wednesday when they were in America.
Oh, okay.
So the Springer Academy and the Rose of Athens Academy are clone buds of each other, aren't they?
Yes.
Next question.
Next question.
I forgot to ask that as an open-ended interview style question rather than a yes or no question.
Sometimes we refer to it as refer to them as sister programs.
Okay.
Because it's the same philosophy, it's the same style. I'm a student of that program.
But it's not that the Athens one is beholden to the Columbus one. It's just
They're their own
the
thing.
Same program.
Yeah,
similar model.
Yeah, it's along the lineage from First Stage Milwaukee as well. It's like the Springer Theater Academy does a very similar thing from First Stage Milwaukee, where Ron came from.
Yeah.
And there's a few organizations, I think, kind of like this. It's a certain
that have
mode
stemmed
of
off
education.
of each branch of it.
Ron Anderson is the associate artistic director at the Springer, who runs the education department effectively at Springer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very effectively.
Very.
I mean, they're building a new children's theater and expanding, and they have an insane number of students right now.
Mm-hmm. I don't know the exact numbers.
I don't either.
But there's a lot.
Yeah.
But there's still room to grow. So if you're listening and in the Columbus area and would like to enroll your student.
Time to sign up for this summer still?
Yeah, there's plenty of time. We've still got 3 2-week sessions left, or depending upon your age, if they're very young, age 5 to 7, I think there's 1-week classes as well. So just contact the Springer Opera House and see if there's a spot available. Yeah.
And is there a website they would go to for that, Adam?
There is. It's springeroperahouse.org.
Yes, yes, it is. You win. Ding,
Thank
ding,
you.
ding.
And I'm supposed to put that link in the show notes now, right?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
so.
why not?
Sure.
I try and keep up with it, but we're still...
I don't think we ever mentioned, by the way, before we hop over to Aaron, that you... Did we ever mention that you quit your job?
We did in the anniversary special.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Do we know about the anniversary special?
Well, yeah, it was posted backwards in the timeline.
So we've heard it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We weren't there when we recorded it, but we've heard it.
That's
at
correct.
this
It
point.
popped up in our automatic podcast
I just wanted to
upload
make
feed.
sure.
Yeah. Yes, it was referenced in that episode 10 years in the future, 30 years. And I've quit my job as a teacher at the school I was working at. So I am a free agent at the moment. My plan is right now to kind of take the next year off from at least teaching in a full-time capacity at a school. And so fortunately, I've got a lot of friends that are making jobs available to me. And so I'm going to kind of do contract to contract for the next year and take some time and figure out what the next step is and kind of what I want to do. If I want to continue on teaching in the realm of public education or something different. maybe at a private school or go back to working for ed departments for theaters, regional and otherwise. So I'm in this wonderful state of discovery and journey. I have not stopped believing yet.
Well, don't stop believing. So my two major projects, I'm also doing a drama camp, though a wholly independent one from the Academy style. We're a very production-based drama camp. I'm over at the Marcus Jewish Community Center of Atlanta with some other local Atlanta folk, and we basically do large productions in 2 weeks, the MTI Junior Collection. So this first set of 2 weeks, I directed and choreographed the Jungle Book Junior. And next week, we're going to start 101 Dalmatians Junior. And then there's a little bit of a break for me while they do improv camp. And then we're coming back and doing Jungle Book all over again. So I'm having trouble sleeping at night for all of the Disney songs going around my head like a cracked out carousel. And then in the evenings, speaking of cracked out, I'm doing my Bad Hamlet rehearsals finally. So those are going really cool. I saw some of the fight scenes for the first time, and they look great. They're very sort of the Adam West 60s overblown superhero on stage, on screen comedy battles. But the guys who are doing them look great already, and they're like 2 fight rehearsals in.
Cue Jeff's Adam West impression.
Adam West, old chum.
There we go.
Speaking of Bat Hamlet, Topher Payne is now listening to the podcast.
Hey, Topher.
And he is in
Bat Hamlet. He is in fact playing Bat Hamlet. It's great, because he did this really sincere, honest, down-to-earth Mame where he was playing anti-Mame, and now he's going to play the Hamlet, but now he's playing Hamlet ridiculous and over the top and campy, but like it's exactly right for the show. And so it's sort of this funny turnaround from taking what could be, as a man playing Mame, a very over the top campy role, to Hamlet, which is normally very contained.
Yeah.
Adam West. I can't do it again.
Excuse me.
Oh, wow.
The impressions that killed Aaron.
Now your Jeff's impressions are killing other folks.
Yeah,
Oh.
they used to just horrify us.
I call them impressasins.
Impressescence. We were discussing at camp, one of the other teachers there also does really bad impressions, and we were saying that she's just going to identify basically whoever she's impersonating to make sure it's like, I'm Joan Rivers, ha ha ha, Joan.
Okay. Ha ha ha.
Adam West.
Adam West. Aaron broke the podcast.
I guess we know what this episode is called at this point.
Yeah. Cool.
Adam West wrapped in musical notes or something.
All right. So articles.
Oh yeah. Okay. So why we're
here
talking about camps.
Oh.
So I have I'm going to take the microphone if you don't mind.
Okay.
I have a French foreign exchange student who's come into my theater camp, and she is, literally got off the plane from France the night before, shows up to visit. She wanted to kind of watch for a couple of days before deciding whether or not she wanted to take the camp.
Mm-hmm.
I know enough French to embarrass myself horribly, right? But enough to sort of start a baseline communication. And, as you do, on a whim, I said, okay, there's got to be like an app out there that would be helpful, right?
Right.
So I grab, of all things, the Google Translate app, which I remember using a long time ago and it not being great, not being bad, but not being really practical. And it is awesome. I can either write in by text or I can speak in what I need, and it will translate it back out and speak it back out. We ultimately ended up, and that helped get us, through, but we ultimately ended up just moving mostly to basically texting back and forth in a way using the Google Translate app. Like she'll grab the phone from me and text me something or whatever. And she's decided she loved it. She kept coming back every day. And so now we're going to integrate her into the new session that starts next week, and I'm trying to build some curriculum with French-based text and try and sort of have some instructions ready. But all the teachers grabbed this app,
Yeah.
and like it was the closest thing I've ever seen to sort of having a universal translator and just Star Trek reference, and just how well it worked surprised me, and is allowing me to teach a girl who sees herself primarily as a singer and dancer and has never done theater how to do theater. In fact, she was having such a good time that we were running this improv, and the kids weren't quite working together. And and part of building a rapport with her is having sort of little inside jokes because she feels pretty isolated. So I would text her and I would say, and I'd have it translate, and I'd say, I'm trying to get them to work together. And she was like, oh. And she said, do you want me to... She knew the topic of the improv was tourists. She's like, do you want me to go in there and pretend that I'm Parisian and like they're in France and just speak at them in French? And I'm like, yes. And so she gets up there, and 3 days ago, when I asked her if she wanted to play, she was like, no. You know, she gets up there and she does this whole improv in French, and the kids are like concerned. You know, and then just to mess with them, she's so sharp. Just to mess with them, she goes, "I'm sorry, I don't speak English," and keeps going.
Right.
And she's great, and she did a great job. And I actually ended up using
and
some
suddenly
gibberish.
they have a shared objective,
Yes,
which brings them together as the English speakers.
Yes. And gibberish is an amazing teaching tool
Yeah.
because when no one is speaking a language, they're all able to communicate. And it worked really well for teaching games. So
that's true.
I loved it.
That's actually pretty amazing because that is exactly what I was talking to the teacher that I was teaching with in the program last week, Thomas. I was sharing with him because he's bilingual. He speaks Spanish, and there's a couple other languages he's got some phrases on. But I told him about a friend of mine, Eric Abele, back from Lexington, and Eric speaks any language. And if he doesn't know it, he can learn it really fast. He just has a mind that can do that. And when I first started working with him, it was really fascinating because a lot of times that's exactly what he would do is if we were fighting for the kids' attention, he would give instructions in a different language, usually French, sometimes German, but he would just keep the sentences very simple, straightforward, but he would add a lot of hand gestures along with it so the kids were forced to pay attention and could figure out, what we were expecting them to do. And it was just the most brilliant classroom management thing I'd ever seen. And I wish I was more fluent in something so that I could steal that trick.
Well, you could with the gibberish, as Jeff is suggesting.
True. Yeah.
That really does work. Like, yeah.
Because then it becomes a game, it becomes a puzzle, it becomes an activity instead of here are the new rules and the classroom task.
Yeah.
I was going to say that with the translation, using Google Translate, I have actually recently started a project. Have I talked about Goldini on the podcast before? I think I have. But yeah, I was using Google Translate to start the translation of an old Goldini script that I'm now humanizing again. Google spit it out for me. It's this very robotic translation, a direct. This word means this thing. This word means that thing. And so now I've got a royalty-free translation that I can adapt the script from. And that's also been a really interesting project using that universal translator technology.
It's really fun how fluid language is. And like how, just again, I'm going to talk about me for a moment.
Sure.
On Friday.
Why else would we have started this podcast if the three of us didn't like talking about ourselves?
There was, on Friday, no shame, Kyle Phillips and I and some of the other academy teachers, we signed a song. Kyle has done that before. He's very proficient in ASL, and he kind of had the open invitation for people that would like to learn. So about a week ago from Friday, I said, I want to do something. And so we settled on that No Love song by Lil Wayne and Eminem. And Kyle signed the Eminem part because it's ridiculously fast. And I took the Lil Wayne part. And then some of the other teachers also added too by creating this sort of movement story that went on while we were signing other things. And it was just a beautiful piece. But it was so much fun because I didn't know any sign language, like, at all. And so what Kyle basically did was he set me up on this dictionary, this online dictionary where you can look up words, and then it shows a video demonstrating how to perform whatever the gesture is, and how he said that largely because, with song where it has a rhythm and a meter, it's not always as important to get the literal interpretation of what the lyric is, as long as you're getting the idea across. And, so many songs and poems are, write with metaphor and, symbols and all these different things. And it was just absolutely fascinating. So it was this, I was given the tools, I was given this bit of text and thrown in and said, figure it out. And then Kyle was, open to questions,
coaching and polishing, but he made you do the original
and
sort
so
of research.
I learned a lot about it, but then it was also kind of cool because of trying to figure out the perfect gesture to communicate exactly what was going on.
Right.
Because there were several times over the course of the week where, I was doing, this one gesture for, there's this line about, I'm all about the dough, but I don't even check the peephole. I mean, he's all about the money. He just doesn't care where it's coming from. And so I didn't know what to do for peephole. And first it was very literal. I did like a door and a peephole. And then I was like, that's not right. And so then it was like, okay. Eventually I settled on the word future, because that's what he's saying. I'm looking towards making more money for the future, but I'm so reckless, careless, that I'm not even looking before I leap. So, and that helped influence. It was an incredible experience, and I was terrified out of my mind. That's what I was telling Kyle and a lot of people. But it was just a great experience. And so
that's cool.
Yeah.
One of my favorite video sets on YouTube is Captain Valor, who signs through a bunch of different songs, and he has a lot of Jonathan Colton songs, which are fun, and how I originally found him. But then he also does all sorts of weird things, from more classic rock sort of stuff to like Candy Pop, Britney and Katy Perry sort of songs. And he costumes just a little bit, the outfit is appropriate for whatever he's signing, and he's totally into it. And it's this weird, it's dance, but it's clear communication. Like, even not knowing sign language, you listen to the lyrics and you see what he's doing, and you're like, oh, I get that. I see what he's translating. But then one of the things he's added on more recent episodes is he'll have the subtitles at the bottom of the screen, the direct lyrics, the actual lyrics in English, and then the signs he's actually performing and the order they're signing in. And so, like, the line will be like, I looked over and saw a lady in a red dress, and it'll show at the bottom, it'll be like, red dress lady over there.
Yeah.
But it matches the lyrics and it matches the song rather than the words specifically.
Yeah.
Who else has an article?
I have one.
Yay.
This is something I came across. I don't even remember how I stumbled on it. Again, chasing rabbits. But is this thing called the Bechdel rule, or the Bechdel test. And it's a test that talks about the roles of women, specifically in like movie and TV shows. And here is the 3 criteria for the Bechdel test. Number 1, the movie has to have at least 2 named female characters in it. Number 2, these 2 female characters have to talk to each other at some point during the film or television episode. And number 3, they have to talk about something besides a man. And very few movies meet most of that criteria. And the test was actually, it was named after Alison Bechdel, who had a comic called Dykes to Watch Out For. And this comic, I'd heard of it before, but it was it's been around for a while, but it was she said she actually stole the test or the idea from a friend of hers. Like, this was her theory,
right.
And she put it in the comics at one point, having two of the characters talk about it. And it was just really interesting. It was a perspective that I hadn't thought about, but as I kind of just, scrolling through maybe the last 4 or 5 movies that I've maybe seen in a movie theater, I was like, you're right. There aren't a lot of one female characters represented, and then there are certainly not a lot that are talking about or doing things that aren't some way related to finding a man, finding romance, planning a wedding, whatever the thing is. And it was just a site that I found that breaks it down movie by movie, and I don't know. So I guess I'm trying to think. I don't know what my question is. This is just an interesting idea that I came across, and I wanted to bring it up and share it with you guys and see what you think. There were some other articles that I found that kind of related to it. One woman who is a screenwriter, and basically she went to like a school to learn how to become a better screenwriter, and how she kind of learned this rule by experience. That she started to crank out screenplays, and feedback that she was getting from professors or eventually producers were tone down the female character. A female character is only important if they're talking about the male protagonist. Stuff like that. Wow. So, what do you guys think?
Well, I was sitting here thinking about the script I've just been, the one I wrote for Script Frenzy.
Right.
And I was like, my female characters don't just sit around talking about boys, but they actually never have a scene together by themselves. Because one's sort of the best friend and one's sort of the groundskeeper at the castle. And I've already failed the test.
To be fair to you, though, you're also it's 2 male love interests in yours, so there's not the dilemma. So, okay, then does the rule apply to same-sex couples? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm not saying this very well.
Sure.
But we know what I'm trying to say, I hope.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there was some other articles I jumped and linked to, and there was an African-American studies professor that, and I can't remember his name now, but he essentially took the same rule, but instead of it being women...
Tried it with men.
Right. With African-American characters, not just men. But his point was there aren't...
You're back on.
Oh, I'm back on. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll talk directly into the mic then. But no, African-American characters on film. And then the same idea that they're underrepresented. Typically, they're just not featured.
Right.
The rule and what they apparently try to coach towards is the white male protagonist for films, whether it's an action movie, comedy, whatever. And they said there's movie exceptions to the rule. That's not saying all movies are like that, but what sells and what they prefer to stick with is the white male protagonist.
And that brings up the question, is it what sells because it's what's out there? If there was one that was well written, would it sell as well? Or, if there were 100 out there that were well written that had those sorts of things. As long as it's the exception, it appears that what sells is the mainstream.
Well, it makes me want to know... hang on. It makes me want to know, how well Miles Morales is doing, the African-American Spider-Man in the Ultimate line. And I wonder if people are going to vote with their wallets and support the book or not, because, it's the same guy who's been writing the white Spider-Man in the Ultimate line forever, and he's a great writer, Bendis. And the art's great, and the stories are good, and the character's interesting, and it's, will people support it financially? I mean, and I think he's an important character. I think it's an interesting idea, and what I've read I like. Is it the same as the other Spider-Man? No. Was Spider-Man 2099? No. But were the right elements there? I think so.
Yeah.
I was also wondering too, because this is really a litmus test. They said for film and television and things like that. Then it made me question: is there an overrepresentation of white male characters on stage? I think that plays lend themselves to different types of discussions than you would have naturally in a film.
Yeah.
There's more talking, first of all, and there's more time to develop those sort of
So
go ahead.
would the average play pass the test better than the average movie?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it would, but again, I think I have kind of a limited experience.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different plays out there, and I've read a good many, but I just don't know.
Sure. I mean, you need a fairly big sample group.
Sure. Yeah. But
it's an interesting concept and an interesting question. I would feel like that the same style of play is probably going to have similar styles of issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's possible that they would do as poorly on the test as the movies would, with exceptions out there, because I think perhaps there is a larger percentage of plays that are actually, the female protagonists that then would, have the same benefits of the movies with the female protagonists.
Mm-hmm.
So I think rather than the average play versus the average movie, you would have to sort of look at genres and styles within that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the overall library of plays would fare better than the overall library of movies, but perhaps not the majority of plays that are standardly produced.
You know who would have the answer to this? Adam West.
It's possible he could just...
A white man?
Yes.
Sorry.
With his bat belly.
But, there's so many more plays out there, because you can throw a play script out and have it be part of the world much easier than, we only consider movies once they've been made into movies.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a play can exist as a script before it gets produced for the first time and still be part of the play library. Like, Samuel French Library, there are plays in the catalog that have been produced once, originally published, and then produced very infrequently since.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a huge library out there between all the play distributors.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the movie library is a bit of a smaller collection.
And then maybe it's a market and intention thing too. I mean, there's a lot more money that goes into putting together a film, but then I don't know. Then I just questioned that. I guess I questioned why those other groups would want to rush out and see a lead character that doesn't represent them. Yeah.
If it comes back to, if it's the only option, then you get used to it.
Well, and I think there's a flip side that is unfortunate, that Hollywood has a bad tendency to label movies with a large African American cast as black movies. They're like, "Yep, that's for them," and everyone else isn't gonna see it, and it's unfortunate.
And it appears, when they try and put someone of a different ethnicity or style or whatever into those prominent positions, it comes across. They tend to stereotype. When it's oh look, this is an Indian movie. Look, and we're gonna have Bollywood numbers in it for no apparent reason except that the lead is Indian.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing it back to Star Trek,
Sure,
and actually Iron Man, but Star Trek's better. The Abrams Star Trek opens and with an Indian captain in the old ship in the Kelvin that's destroyed at the beginning, and he also played
because he's expendable. Is that why?
That's what I was going to say.
Oh, I wasn't going to say that at all. But I mean, no, I thought he was heroic. He was, he made a noble sacrifice. All this other kind of stuff. Like, he was a character that I realized, I would follow this guy through the whole movie. And I think watch him, because I think he's going to get I don't know. I just was really impressed with that actor.
The prequel is going to be all about him.
Yeah. Well, maybe we're just more enlightened, open guys.
Speaking of open,
that doesn't
we have
sound
to
like
leave
us
shortly.
at all.
Okay, yeah,
we've got some time.
Well, but people are moving in around us.
People are moving in, and
they just brought in some watermelons.
Yep,
a big bucket. of ice.
Yep. Yep. This will be a half-sized episode today.
Oh.
No.
We're just going to go
We're just
outside
gonna-
and let the cars drive past.
All right. Yeah, we'll do that.
We could do that.
Because
So
we
we're gonna
still got more talking to do.
All right.
Pause
We
here.
did not drive all this
Okay.
way.
Take this time now to...
For them, no
if
time
you're
will
listening to this
pass.
podcast on record, now is the time where you will get up, you'll turn the record over, and put the podcast to side 2. Here comes side 2. Okay, welcome to side 2 of the podcast.
Hello.
Podcasting is hard.
Especially the way we do it.
Yeah, we make it way more difficult than it needs to be. Oh,
Y'all
there's
are
my
talking
side
to
of the
sides
microphone.
Of the
Oh, I see,
microphone
yeah.
instead
Yep.
of into it.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
What will the challenge be next week? Should we make one for ourselves?
Underwater.
Ooh.
Screw all of you.
We'll put the microphones in Ziploc baggies, and we'll
Okay.
throw the whole set up into my pool.
It's heated, so that's...
Aaron's buying us a new podcast set. Yay! Yay!
Who's the new member of the podcast?
That's sexy,
it?
Adam.
Is that who it is?
Oh, articles. Let's kick off side 2 with a good article. Who's got one?
I got one.
Okay.
I've got the AI game that knows you better than anyone. Ooh, this is really cool. So this is a game developer who, again, like we've talked in the past, is expanding what sort of the definition of a game can be, and how it changes the interaction with the user. So this one actually, much like the high school reunion sketch in Tweeted on Your iPad, you log in through your Facebook, but rather than like being a Zynga game where it spams all your friends and says, Jeff just planted a sheep.
It doesn't say anything because Jeff deactivated his Facebook.
That's true, it did, but you were who I could see immediately, and therefore you were the only name I could think of. It connects to your Facebook account, and it actually affects the gameplay by putting your information into an AI-driven software set. So, like how L.A. Noire was all getting all that press for being able, to do facial recognition, and you actually had to tell which characters were lying because they had, little facial tics and things. This one delves into that augmented reality sort of environment by connecting your Facebook information into the game itself. Now, the first one they've got is fairly simple. You enter an environment with a cube, and if you click on the cube, you take one crack at the cube. And as you click on it, as more and more clicks happen, you start to see it deteriorate. And when you've clicked it enough, when you've cracked it enough, the cube opens up. But there is actually many players in each cube environment. So in between your clicks, you may see the cube deteriorating. You won't see the other players, but you will see their effect on the cube because you're all interacting with the same cube. And whoever cracks open the cube gets a response from the cube that somehow has to do with your Facebook and your information and but it's a secret result that only you, of all the players, get to see. And so there's a competition element, there's a personal importance element, and as more of an experiment than a financial revenue stream, they have different chisels that can be purchased. And, you can get the basic chisel for $1 that'll, each of your clicks counts 10 clicks. And then there's one that's the diamond chisel that there's only one available for the whole game, but it costs £50,000. And they're not really expecting anybody to buy it, but they're wondering if maybe a group of players, how big a group that are desperate enough to know what happens when you crack the cube would bid on it. Which I heard an article about Cow Clicker, which was sort of the predecessor to this in a lot of ways, and I didn't connect them until just now describing them. There was this guy on Facebook that was literally trying to show the world how horrible Zynga games were. because he was a game developer, and he
Can you describe for me what Zynga games are?
Zynga games are Farmville and Mafia Wars and all of these games on Facebook.
The things I do not play ever.
Right.
Do they do draw something?
They don't know if they do draw something, or they probably released a comparable one immediately afterwards.
I remember Ryan Seacrest is producing a win, lose, or draw style TV show based off of Draw Something. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, Zynga has a really bad reputation of developing really horrible games that slowly steal money from your pockets. Because basically, like in Farmville, as I understand it, you plant 3 corn plants, and then you wait 6 hours, and your corn blooms, and you harvest the corn and sell it. And with the money you make, you can buy more plants, or a cow, or whatever. But you can pay Zynga to speed the clock up, to get fertilizer, so your corn will grow in 1 hour, or 10 minutes.
You can literally pay Zynga for imaginary cow poop.
Yes. And that's
I just wanted to be clear.
And that's what he was. But the other half of Zynga that bothers gamers and game developers is they'll see a really popular app game and make a copycat of it overnight and sell it with a different name and start trying to take the money from the popular game.
That's been going on forever in all kinds of entertainment.
Sure. So the two combination, the fact that they make these little penny suck games and these copycat games, they have a mixed reputation. The non-gamers are pouring money on them, and the gamers, scorn them.
Right, but they really care about the non-gamers because
that's who's sending them $20 a week so that their fake corn grows faster.
That's who's putting their kids through college.
Yeah. and buying their yachts and all of that stuff. So this game developer made Cow Clicker, which literally there was a picture of a cow, and you clicked it, and it said moo, and then a timer appeared, and 6 hours later you could click the cow again. And he just released this game, and he was like, this is what y'all are playing. Yeah. I've just simplified it to make it clear what game you are playing. Yeah. All you are doing is waiting 6 hours to click a picture. And people got into it. And so Cow Clicker took off and developed this fan base, and he started releasing, again, originally as part of the art project, like you could buy a cow with a funny hat for an extra $1 or $5 or whatever. And it basically took over his life. People were throwing money at him and paying Cow Clicker all day. And so he finally had the cowpocalypse, where all the cows were raptured and the game was over because he was like, this is stealing my life away. Wow.
I think that's absolutely fascinating that he created this whole thing as a joke to mock the people that were playing all these things.
Yes.
And then
more to mock the people who were developing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Because it was trying to educate the people that were playing the game and mock the people who were developing the game.
Okay.
Though I imagine you can't quite make that educational leap without mocking the players.
But do you really think they care?
Oh, no. It was about mocking Zynga to the players so people would stop playing Zynga rather than mocking Zynga so that Zynga would feel ashamed of what they were doing.
I'll drool.
So that connection just happened live while I was talking. But this cute game is sort of this first attempt at making a game based around you, the ambiguous second person you, the player, where it can suck information out of all of the stuff we're putting out on the web and making totally public knowledge that anybody can pick up. And even if your privacy settings are set, this stuff is out there in one form or another. And he's trying to use it beneficially rather than scamming you out of your money. But it's sort of interesting that part of this experiment is a 50,000-pound diamond chisel that I'm sure he will not be crushed if he actually manages to sell.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So it mines stuff off of all the social networking things that you use.
Yeah.
All right.
On top of that, or did you have?
Well, does your level of activity on those social networking mediums, like if I never post to Twitter or if I go to my Facebook, like, I don't know, twice a month, would that affect
how great it was a game for you.
Yeah.
Perhaps, I would imagine so.
However, if you've listed, I say, your favorite movies, that's me, your favorite movies, your favorite books, things like that, then that information's there whether you log on or not, including your age and, what kind of email account you have even. Like, that's just sitting there.
Well, I read a couple months ago, actually. It was, they said even when you don't click on the like pages, it tracks your movement across as you look up certain things. And so it's almost irrelevant whether you like it or not. It may increase, some correlation between you and that product more, but for the most part, it kind of passively tracks you anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Stock book.
But they're also working on AI that can use it. So, like, if you were playing like a Resident
You
Evil
mean
game,
like Small Wonder?
like Small Wonder. But imagine you're playing a game.
I'm sorry, I'm just imagining how much more difficult it would be if we had to have a Small Wonder reference in every show.
Yeah, I only remember the one episode of that. Do you remember the one where she fixes the cars?
No.
Oh, okay. The basic premise was the family's car was broken, so she repaired it, and when she repairs it, it gets like 100 miles to a gallon of gas. But the only side effect is, like, after you go 500 miles, the car explodes.
That's only a minor side effect.
It was something to that effect. Like, the cars were all exploding at the end of the episode.
Sure.
Sorry.
Oh, because after she fixed theirs, they were like, "Hey, this is great! Everybody
Yeah.
come get your car fixed by Small Wonder."
Yes.
Did she have a name?
Vicky.
Oh,
Vicky.
Vicky. I was
And
going to say
that stood for something. Like, it was
Virtual.
something like that. Yeah.
virtually incomprehensible
Child.
killer.
You have to fix this with that last eye. Imagination.
No, I vaguely remember that she was also a vacuum cleaner, and that's really all. Yeah. No, I know that causes a whole set of problems, doesn't it?
All right, back. Sorry.
But we digress.
Yeah,
Don't we
boy.
always?
Boy.
That's what people tune in for, the digressions.
Nope.
No. Okay. So, but he's working on AI components that can use this Facebook information. So you could be playing a video game, and one of the characters could start talking to you about you're playing a spy thriller, and they've kidnapped your niece, and they know her by name and where she lives.
Where is my daughter?
I have a certain set of skills. They include button mashing and reading a mini
You've
map.
sunk my battleship as well.
That was Jeff's Liam Neeson, for those listening at home.
We should make a Jeff impression bingo card to print out from the website and just put like 25 random celebrities on it.
But not tell him.
Not tell Jeff.
Yes.
And the first person who fills up
That was actually my B. Arthur.
see all the room. I guess I'll have to crop that. Okay. So, yeah, I'm going to make a bingo card, and we're going to post it to the blog, and you can download it and try and track the Jeff Holbrook impressions.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
God.
free space will be Topher Payne.
I can't do my impression of him anymore. I forgot I did one, and then he said, "Your impression of me is terrible." And I was like, "I did? Oh, I did." Whoops. So when B. Arthur calls.
Oh.
Oh.
It's not funny. There's some things we don't joke about.
Oh.
That is the passing of B. Arthur.
I think Aaron had some point he was trying to make before we
No,
got
he was.
this far down.
How it's, gleaning and using information to make
To draw you into the story
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
So that rather than, as Zork, Grand Inquisitor says,
Yeah.
you're no longer the ageless, faceless, nameless, gender ambiguous, heroic character. You are,
Who's to say I'm not?
well, you may be, but the computer would know that for sure rather
Oh.
than making that the default.
Okay.
Afghan cap. What is that? Ageless, faceless, gender, and name.
He's going into acronyms, folks.
the whole game, your sidekick character called you Afghan Cap.
Afghan Cap.
And at the very beginning, he identified that it was for ageless, faceless, gender neutral, blah 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 blah, adventure person. But you were Afghan Cap for the rest of the game, playing off the idea that in all games where you don't see where it's a first person perspective game to draw you into the story.
Therefore, that character must be a white male protagonist.
Right.
Right.
And whenever he's not on screen, all the characters are talking about how hot he is.
The female characters.
Sure.
Right.
But you never see that because you're always on the screen. Except... Oh, we're going down the rabbit hole again. This is getting crazy.
Thinking caps.
What are y'all thinking?
Well, I'm just thinking, does anyone else feel kind of icky and invaded by that idea? I do.
About games being able to kidnap your actual niece
Tag,
instead of your
yeah.
virtual niece?
Yeah. I mean, I know that just seems to be the way everything's going. Like, what was that movie? Minority Report. The one with Tom Cruise and, like, all the advertisements that were, like...
How many minorities were in Minority Report, by the way? It featured a white male protagonist.
I think they were all white. The precog is white. Max von Sydow is white.
Okay, just
Tom
noting.
Cruise.
Another potential episode title: White Male Protagonist - Adam West.
I will title this episode something totally different.
Good idea.
What? It's like you don't want that target audience.
But I mean, I am creeped out by
games knowing you.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, not. I'm not going to lose sleep at night about it, but I feel like it's all still really gimmicky. So I haven't found anything that makes it a better game. Like I in a lot of ways, you play games so that you are escaping.
Escapism. Yeah, I was going to jump in. Yeah, getting to be Batman, getting to be if it's a completely original, made up new type of character. Yeah, that's
part of the fun.
That's part of the fun for me.
Sure.
Otherwise, when you go to those big fantasy conventions, what are you going to dress up as? Yourself?
Yeah, nobody's going to recognize you because they played the game as themselves.
Boring.
But I had this thought in Zelda Twilight Princess, the first Wii motion game, where you swung the sword around and held up the shield using the Wiimote and the nunchuck. I was like, if I was good at sword fighting, I wouldn't need a video game. I would go out on a real adventure.
And get picked up by the police.
Well, you don't know that for sure.
I'm just saying. Speaking of, have you... Oh, that's Smile. I'm Buzzy McBuzzerstein. Have you guys heard about how much the Xbox Connect is being loved by developers, and they're looking into using them for things like shopping applications? Are you familiar with Xbox Connect?
I know what it is,
okay.
But yeah, I don't know what applications
There's this thought of
about.
like, you go to a website to shop on your Xbox, and you wave your hand around to do the transactions and browse items and stuff. Instead of point and click.
And it could bitmap the outfit onto you.
Yeah, that's right. Did we talk about this?
No, I was just sort of thinking, okay, what could you do with a Connect?
And that's true. That's
shopping?
Exactly what happens is you try on outfits
and then
virtually.
You can turn around and look at the back of it and how it hangs off your body and stuff. What I love about the Connect is how, after a very brief hesitation, right as it was first released, at the very first thing, people started hacking it and playing with it, and Microsoft sort of locked it down for like 2 days, and then they had this massive change of heart. I don't know exactly how many days it was, but it was a brief period where they tried to lock it down, and then they were like, no, what are we doing? And they opened it up, and they made the software available. They were like, this is what makes the Kinect run. See what you can figure out. And the scientific community has been using it as a mobility piece, software control. Robotic people have been using it to map motion to then apply to robotic controls. Performers have been using it. Software developers have been using it. This shopping idea. I love that Microsoft realized in time, like they thought about it. It would have been great if they had released it immediately.
Because they had Tom Cruise and the precogs telling them,
What you
that
need to
locking
do.
it down would lead to the first Connect murder. Connecting too much with a sharp instrument, like a pointy violin.
I'm just imagining now somebody shoving that controller into somebody's mouth and that little glowy orb on the end, making their eyeballs like.
Didn't you hear the sound?
Yeah.
I'm going to push my imaginary glasses further up the bridge of my nose and say that's the PlayStation Move.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, he got you there.
I don't know. I thought
The
they had the
Kinect-
little glowy balls on the end.
The PlayStation Move is much more like the Wiimote, and
Okay.
it tracks the glowy ball.
Okay.
Whereas the Kinect actually can trace all of your body motion. It's a camera
It's
and
like
a microphone.
bar of spy.
Bar of spot.
It's like this little bar. With
Your
these
syntax
sensory
is all
things.
is all Wookiee.
Yoda. Whoa.
I meant to say Woodgie. Man, if only that bingo card existed right now.
It will by the time this episode is out in the first week. I will have it out by a week of posting this episode.
That's actually my Bill Murray. It's the end of Lost in Translation.
That's what he
That's what he
whispers.
whispers
That's what he
into his
whispers.
ear. Yeah. Beautimus.
The mystery solved on our Technique
solved.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, it's creepy, but I think, like we've talked about, we have this sort of sledgehammer approach to new technologies when they first come out, and then we learn to finesse with them. And this could be the first step to an interesting holodeck sort of environment.
Uh-huh.
I think there's potential there. I think this first game does not spark me particularly. This idea that when you open the cube, it's going to be an ending that only you will see, and it will be custom made for just you. And I could see, like in a big adventure game, I wouldn't want it to be about me. I'd much rather pretend to be somebody else, because I have to be me all the time, and it's rather depressing.
I know I've hung out with you for extended periods of time.
Oh. Wah, 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 wah. But I think there's something
Yeah.
that could be gained from this.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a totally new genre
Yes,
of game.
demographic data for...
The marketing,
Yeah.
sure.
That's why they turned it over.
I'm sorry, I go to those places.
Well, since we're ending on a dark note, I have one last little... Wait.
Yes, we're not ending on a brown note, I hope.
Ugh.
Keep moving. Keep
We have
moving.
one last little article I want to throw out. It may just grab some little thoughts. This thing is called that I found. It's the End of Life Care Machine. There is an artist. There is an artist and designer named Dan Chen, and as part of his master degree thesis, he had an installation called File Save As Intimacy. And so he created this robot that was built to comfort dying patients in their last moments. And so what it basically is this little robotic arm that has this soft sort of sponge on the end of a little arm.
Mm-hmm.
And before you go into the room, you enter...
I'm already depressed by this.
Wait. You enter personal information into like a little kiosk
God.
outside, and they put like a little ID card around your, like a bracelet, and you go into this room, you lay down, and the machine scans the card and begins to stroke your arm as here is some of the text that reads to you, and it personalizes it. It reads your name. So like... Hello, Aaron. I'm the Last Moment Robot. I'm here to help you and guide you through your last moment on Earth. I am so sorry that your family and friends can't be with you right now, but don't be afraid. And it goes on like that until the end of the exhibit is calling a time of death. And then there's a slight pause, and then it says, please leave the room so the next person can go through this experience.
Does it also sing Daisy, Daisy?
Oh, so the person isn't actually dying.
No, see, that's the thing.
It's a demo setup.
This is
okay.
an art installation. Didn't I say?
You did.
Okay.
We chose
yes,
to hear what we wanted to
Right.
hear. We
Yeah.
saw this art installation actually watching a person die.
Oh no!
And at the end of the
I-
exhibit
yeah.
was when the grandma finally kicked off.
Well, that's actually why I first clicked on this thing, because I was like, surely this isn't real, and then I realized it was it's an experience. Again, making the point of the quality of intimacy that we offer people in hospitals and the reason the artist Dan Chen said he made this was because there is another tool in use right now called Paro, P-A-R-O, the therapeutic robot, and it's this little seal like plush animal that they use in hospitals to help. They said patients with dementia, patients that are maybe lonely because the only contact they have when they're in hospital for a long time is, the nurse comes in, maybe checks vitals, gives them food, and then goes away. And so he was trying to make a point with this robot that he didn't try to dress up in the form of a cute little seal like the actual therapeutic robot, but just making a point of this. Really,
look at this in bright daylight rather than in cute fuzzy terms.
Yeah, this is not a replacement, or I don't know, maybe with this AI, not yet. It's not a replacement yet. So just your thoughts, your reactions, watching your faces as I talked through it before you realized it was an installation was enough for me. But
the podcast listeners weren't able to see that.
Right.
So we have to voice that somehow.
Don't take this the wrong way, but I've thought a lot about death this week.
Okay.
And so this is interesting. It sounds like we're getting a little buzzy here. Oh, well.
I don't hear it.
Oh, well. Maybe it's just me.
I think it's your headphone.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad. Okay, good. I've been thinking, and so it just, I'm still stuck in that I went to thinking of what you were saying as a real thing, and I understand that it's an art installation, but like my mind went to hospitals. I grew up in a nursing home a lot. Not me personally, but I was always there because my grandma was in one and my mom was the caretaker, and I was just always there. And so there were a lot of people towards the end of their life in that place, and I'm just I know that everyone is different. I know every situation is different, so I'm not making a global statement about nursing homes. But I can specifically say that the one that we were at, the administration they might as well, to a degree, have been robots. And I understand that maybe they need to be because there's so many beds, you've got to pay your money, there's all this kind of stuff. I get the business end of it. However, it just felt so far on the cold scale that I just went, I could see that being tried, and it just
from the administrator side point, somebody saying,
I mean, look at it on a spreadsheet, if the cost is, and I don't think any serious healthcare provider would do that because I really just don't. But like just for a second, my brain.
I don't think you're
just
right.
for a second.
Just for a second, from an administrative standpoint, I could see them looking at this on paper and going, "Is this cost effective?" But I can't imagine anybody's family members that would be outside that would ever be on board with this.
Sure.
Which is why this could never be marketed that way. Yeah.
Wah, 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 wah. The intersection of art and death.
Yeah.
But would an interactive AI compassionate robot be better than absolutely no one at your side? I mean, if you absolutely had no one to join you and you had an AI robot, like function, we're jumping a few years into the future where you've got like this actual...
Like the Japanese hug bots that exist now.
Yeah. To an extreme.
I mean...
To really be able to carry on a conversation.
I'm not going to lie. If you have perhaps a relationship with that machine beforehand, for example, if the care bots had essentially a death mode, a final moments mode, and this was a machine that you interacted with every day, which this is already, I think we talked about this once, already a thing where patients are attached to their kind of care robots or whatever. Yeah, it would be better than nothing. I just think it would be. Not the same, weird, completely screwed up, yes. But it's like having a teddy bear. You know what I mean? It doesn't exist, but it's a thing that,
We put emotion, we put...
Anthropomorphize an object.
Yeah, we put that into it.
which, then opens that scary gateway to, as soon as we offer the idea that it would be better than nothing, do we then open up the doorway to this, coming down the path? Not that we have all the power in this situation, but as we as three intellectual adults sitting down and discussing to make that decision, that yes, in an abstract scenario, we can imagine that this is better than absolutely nothing else. That means the pathway is open, which is an interesting place to leave a discussion.
Although I think, too, that it would have to be not particularly human-looking because of the uncanny valley.
Sure.
I think that if it's really cute and endearing somehow in a simple robot way, yeah. Weird.
Yeah.
And we're going to get closer and closer as the years go by to what are robots and computers thinking, and how close to an emotion can we come with what we've got going on. If you really have a program that, like I was watching a video on a robot that learns through practice rather than programming.
Right, like the one that does archery?
I haven't seen the archery. This one was a drawing
We've taught
bot.
them to use weapons.
That's always a good plan.
Dun, 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 dun.
But this one was actually shown drawings.
Dun, 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 dun.
Simple shapes.
Dun, 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 dun.
Like,
you know what that is?
No.
Terminator's coming.
Oh, I see. But it should be shown 10 examples of humans drawing sort of the infinity symbol, the double loop back on itself. And it would observe the human draw it. It would observe the results. It would correlate the 10 examples, and then it would try to draw for itself based on observation and practice, rather than someone specifically programming, move your robot arm 2 degrees this way, then curve it up this way. And by the end of it, through practice and observation alone, got very close to the original drawing based on the 10 human attempts to draw the original drawing. So if we've got robots that can learn through experience rather than programming, and we've got robots that can make decisions based on a set of parameters. They're not making decisions totally on whim yet, but they're making decisions based on a set of parameters. Language is not going to be that hard once those 2 bridges are covered.
Well, they can already translate for us quite well.
Right. So, we're going to be able to converse with machines that are making up what they're saying rather than being told what to say. And so we're going in an interesting direction of AI and
dun, 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 dun.
termination. Anyway.
It doesn't have to be that way. It could be
Look,
it could
there's
be all
a future
datas,
that I envision
datas
where
and
I have a
holographic
robot,
doctors. Nope.
a robot wife.
La 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 la.
Robot wife. Robot wife. Robot
Actually,
wife.
Taking off my headphones.
The medical robots are part of the group that is using this practice and observation stuff, so that rather than the remote surgery robots already exist and are already working quite successfully, where a doctor, a specialist in an area, controls robot input hands, and a robot in a less populated area, a robot in an area without that doctor that's needed for that surgery, performs the surgery hundreds and hundreds of miles away. What they're trying to do now is to let that robot learn basic switchers rather than have to be orchestrated, so that the robot can look at a cut and say, I need to close it this way. And then the surgeon can do just this part that the surgeon must do, that is required for the specialist, the human observation. And then the robot can open and close the patient, basically, so that the surgeon doesn't tire out and can hopefully see more patients and help more people. So they're trying to teach through observation these robots how to do the basic switchers, the basic cuts, the basic things, just like you would teach a medical resident.
That's cool.
And so with life-saving robots, I think we're at a much better signing off point than with goodbye granny robots.
Goodbye, grannies.
That's
Adam
actually
West
the
will save us.
So shall we wrap up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we got a show tonight. A whole other different show.
Some of us watching and some of us acting.
Woohoo!
Acting.
Guess which one?
Never mistake his mugging for acting.
Nope. Well, I guess on behalf of ArTechník podcast and my good friend Bill Murray.
I'm Aaron, and my butt has been asleep since we talked about translating French.
And I'm Adam Montag, and we have failed the Bechdel test because we're not women.
Da-da-da-da-da. Wah.
Really?
That's
we
the
could
first
check right
requirement.
now. We're in a church. It'd be really weird.
Yeah.
We're podcasting from a church now.
Yeah. I feel like now we're in bonus track mode.
We've signed off and we kept talking.
Show's really over. I don't even know if the theme music played.
Uh-oh.
Well, if they waited till the end of the music for this moment, we have to do something.
Oh, there's a
cool.
new term for those clips at the end, like all the way at the end of the credits.
Okay, what is it?
The shawarma.
Well, if we're in the... well, what's our shawarma?
This is the shawarma if the credit music
That's
is played.
really meta.
Whoa.
Shawarma about shawarma. Shawarma you later. That was lame.
We're not
Can
judging.
we just be
throwing
done
things
now?
out.
Cut
I'm
it on the
tired.
laughter.
Yeah,
Cut it on
I
the
know.
Bye.